And I've talked about this before. February 6, 1977, on his birthday, Ronald Reagan spoke at CPAC. He spoke at CPAC. And he pointed out a poll at the time, and I've got the most recent one from Gallup that shows that Americans self-identify more as conservatives than any other philosophical view. And he says, I've always been puzzled by the inability of some political and media types to understand exactly what is meant by adherence to political principle. All too often in the press and television evening news, it's treated as a call for ideological purity. You hear this on TV all the time, including on ideological purity. It's because these people are buffoons. They don't understand. Reagan went on, whatever ideology may mean, and it seems to mean a variety of things depending upon who's using it, it always conjures up in the mind a picture of a rigid, irrational, clinging to abstract theory in the face of reality. Reagan read his John Locke. We have to recognize that in this country, ideology is a scarce word, and for good reason. Marxist-Leninism is, to give but one example, an ideology. All the facts of the real world have to be fitted to the Proscrucian bed of Marx and Lenin. And the facts don't happen to fit the ideology, the facts are chopped off and discarded. I consider this to be the complete opposite to principled conservatism. If there's any political viewpoint in this world which is free from slavish adherence to abstraction, it is American conservatism. Reagan went on. You see, these battles go on and on within the Republican Party, ladies and gentlemen. And they're not learned very well by our opponents. He said, when a conservative states that the free market is the best mechanism ever devised by the mind of man to meet material needs, he's merely stating what a careful examination of the real world has told him is the truth. When a conservative says that totalitarian communism is an absolute enemy of the human freedom, he is not theorizing. He's reporting the ugly reality captured so unforgettably in the writings of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. When a conservative says it's bad for the government to spend more than it takes in, he's simply showing the same common sense that tells him to come in from the rain. When a conservative says that busing does not work, he's not appealing to some theory of education. He's merely reporting what he has seen down at the local school. This is Reagan in 77. When a conservative quotes Jefferson, that government that is closest to the people is best, it's because he knows that Jefferson risked his life, his fortune, his sacred honor to make certain that when he and his fellow patriots learned from experience was not crushed by an ideology of empire. Conservatism is the antithesis of the kind of, and I've tried to talk about this repeatedly, it's the antithesis of the kind of ideological fanaticism that has brought so much horror and destruction to the world. The common sense and common decency of ordinary men and women working out their own lives in their own way. This is the heart of American conservatism. Conservative wisdom and principles are derived from willingness to learn, not just from what is going on now, but what has happened before. Reagan, the principles of conservatism are sound because they're based on what men and women have discovered through experience, in not just one generation or a dozen, but in all the combined experience of mankind. When we conservatives say that we know something about political affairs and that we know and we know can be stated as principles, we are saying that the principles we hold dear are those that have been found through experience to be ultimately beneficial for individuals, families, communities, and nations, found through the often bitter testing of pain or sacrifice and sorrow. He said, let us lay to rest, once and for all, the myth of a small group of ideological purists trying to capture a majority. He's talking about the people who are attacking us today. And he's talking in defense of you, and at this time, himself. He said, replace it with the reality of a majority trying to assert its rights against the tyranny of powerful academics, fashionable left revolutionaries, some economic illiterates who happen to hold elective office, and the social engineers who dominate the dialogue and set the format in political and social affairs. Sounds like today. He said, if there's any ideological fanaticism in American political life, it is to be found among the enemies of freedom on the left or the right. Those who would sacrifice principle to theory. Those who worship only the God of political, social, economic abstractions, ignoring the realities of everyday life. They are not conservatives, he said. Our first job, said Reagan, is to get this message across to those who share most of our principles. Got that? It's to get it across to those, our first job, who most share our principles. If we allow ourselves to be portrayed as ideological shock troops, and that's how they're trying to portray us, without correcting this error, we're doing ourselves and our cause a disservice. Wherever and whenever we can, we should gently but firmly correct our political and media friends who've been perpetuating the myth of conservatism as a narrow ideology. Whatever the word may have meant in the past, today conservatism means principles evolving from experience and a belief in change when necessary, but not just for the sake of change. And once we have established this, the next question is, what will be the political vehicle by which the majority can assert its rights? And he goes on from there saying, take over the Republican Party. I do this to give you hope, to give you inspiration, to tell you we're not alone in history, and we're not alone today.
Mark Levin.